Hi, it's Andrew EBORN here with another Lives on Lockdown. I'm delighted that my very special guest is my old chum, Howie. How are you, Howie?
I am doing very well, Andrew. How are you today?
I am doing brilliant, and I love your backdrop. Is this your living room?
Thank you. Yes, it's my living room. I moved here about 5 weeks ago in the lockdown, so I'm waiting on furniture arriving, but this is what I've got so far.
I'll tell you what, because your place, it looks so clean. You've got flowers, you've got a fantastic thing on the wall and everything. Where is it? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Scotland at the moment.
Scotland?
Yes, I live in Scotland,
I
yes.
love Scotland. Whereabouts in Scotland are you?
Dundee.
Whereabouts?
Dundee?
Ah, Dunfermline, fantastic. So
Yeah.
you moved in lockdown. How did that work out?
Nightmare. I wouldn't advise anyone to, to move in periods like these, but I have done it. So, yeah, I'm settling in, and that's all that matters.
I know, absolutely. And the great thing is, we see on the news every day, Nicola Sturgeon pops up and tells us what's going on. Now that you're on the ground, what I've been doing, Harry, I've been speaking to people around the world, from Australia to Zambia to what's going on in Sweden. And what I really love is that we get reports on the news, but as we all know, what the news says is not necessarily what's going on the ground. It's only
Not really.
one person's view of stuff. So I'm fascinated to get individual views on the ground. So tell me, having moved to Scotland, having moved to that fantastic new place, which is empty of furniture,
Yeah.
what's really going on there at the moment? Tell me about life in Scotland and what lockdown's been like.
So obviously, as we know, Scotland has got nice beaches and the nice scenery. So when you go to the beaches at the weekend, or not even at the weekend, every day feels like a weekend now. It is quite full of people. Although people are taking the restrictions quite seriously, going out with protective gear, face masks, and yeah, but people are going out. People are trying to, live their lives. Things are getting a little bit more flexible now. So that's not too bad at all. But yeah, I mean, Scottish people, they take things quite seriously. And I think it is important for, obviously wiping away this virus. So fingers crossed we get there.
Oh no, absolutely. And Nicola, I mean, she's popped up every day saying her stuff. Even when Boris was sick, she was there, and she was the one politician who's consistently throughout been there, standing up. She's been the centre. What are people's views of her on the ground?
People love Nicola here in Scotland. People absolutely adore the woman, just because she says what she means, and she means what she says, and she comes across that way. So yeah, people seem to really, really love her up here. So
So she's good, which is nice. And I'll tell you what, there does seem to be a
Nicola,
lot in
yes,
the same
you.
way. I don't know if you saw the New Zealand Prime Minister, who I think is brilliant, who was doing a press report, and there was an earthquake halfway through, and she was cool as a cucumber, just carried on. And I thought, like, there are some politicians who've just been so good at this, aren't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. Nicola is one of them. She's brilliant.
Oh, fantastic. So talk to me. I mean, I say you're a brave man. You've always been a brave man. Going out and moving in lockdown. Talk to me about how that happened. Talk to me about the difficulties.
Oh my goodness, complete nightmare. So I moved up my previous place at the end of January,
Where were you
and
before? Remind me.
so I spent a lot of time between Scotland and London.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
thought, because I always see you in London.
oh, yes,
So I knew you were down here because you do the fashion. You work with Mary Martin. That's how we know each other. Mary's been on fantastic, loads of stuff. Known Mary for ages. I go to lots of her events. So that's where I normally see you, in the heart, in the throbbing heart of the fashion industry, right here in London. That's how I know you.
absolutely, absolutely. And I spent a lot of time between Scotland and because I have lived. Scotland has been my base the last 8 years, 8, 9 years, and my son's from here, and he's the reason why I have grounded myself here in Scotland. And no, it is absolutely incredible. I moved up my previous place just before the lockdown, and then the lockdown started. I couldn't pretty much move. I had to stay with mates, and I love my own place too much. I love being in my own space, and I spoke to my agent, and they said, "Well, we could help you move," and I just done it.
And you
I
did,
just
but just talk to me about the practicalities, because everybody was saying at that stage, stay at home. So what did you say? Well, I'm going to stay at home. I'll move to a new one. How does that work?
It was really hard, Andrew. I didn't get any help from anyone. I hired a van, moved things myself. Luckily, I've got an amazing friend who was able to like help me move stuff. It was just pretty much myself and her moving heavy furniture, heavy stuff, loading the van, moving in. I couldn't get, literally couldn't sort out any of my utilities just because I would stay on the phone for ages trying to get to someone. But 5 weeks in, and I'm quite happy besides the fact that I haven't got any furniture.
Well, no, but I tell you what, the stuff you have got is brilliant. I'm just looking behind you because one of the real luxuries, a real privilege, because this is like a one-to-one thing. It's a real privilege. I get invited into people's homes around the world, and so often I see bookshelves with loads and loads of books that nobody ever reads or ever read or ever gone anywhere near. It's just a decoration. Or they have loads of awards which you're not quite sure if they've won or not. You have got some great pictures. You've got a few bottles behind you, as you probably know. Some look a bit emptier than others, I have to say. But you've also got something golden. What's that? What's the golden thing? It looks like a hippo.
I do. No, that is a dog. That is, it's an art piece. I can't remember the name of the artist. It's quite heavy, actually. And I love interiors. Once I get all my furniture in, this place is going to be pretty much gold and royal blue because it's my favorite color.
I know. I remember. This is what I say. So this is what I love about it. It's all gold and glitz. This is Howie.
I love
Howie's
it.
showy.
Yeah, I'm quite maximalist in my taste. So hopefully once lockdown once we go past that, I should be able to pretty much put my stamp and my identity in this pretty much empty room right now.
but we love it. Well, you had to invite us back so we can see the difference. Like we'll do our own version of changing rooms, yeah?
Would be amazing. I love decorating. I have been doing bits and pieces all around the flat, upstairs, downstairs, but it's coming together nicely. So
it's really coming together nicely. Now, for the benefit of people who don't know you, and I say I've known you for a number of years in the sort of fashion world, tell me, and for the benefit of those at home, how you started and your progress in this industry and what you're up to now.
Incredible. So I have always loved fashion. From growing up, I would watch television shows, like fashion shows, beauty pageants. I would play with fabrics. I've always been creative, and but I never really had the opportunity to be able to express my creativity just because my parents would say, "You want to be a model? Why don't you, become a doctor or become an engineer or become, all of these amazing things." And then came social media. Prior to social media starting, I would do modeling shows here and there, nothing serious. And social media started, and I knew I had to be my true, authentic self and really express my creativity in that way. And I started posting pictures of, what I was wearing, where I shop, and through that, I was then able to organically build an audience of people who just genuinely loved to shop or people who liked my style. And I took things on to the next step, which is pretty much blogging. I started writing content on the blog, where to shop, smarter ways to shop, how to stay fit and healthy, and just pretty much things that inspired me. And that just began to grow. I then got invited to London Fashion Week about 5 years ago as a guest for Top Man. And going there, it was like a whole different world to me. Seeing fashion designers, bloggers, influencers, and I said to myself, wow, I have always loved fashion. I have done small shows, I have done little photo shoots here and there, but if this is what it is, I want a slice of this cake. And what then followed was I said to myself, a year from now, I want to be walking runways. And when I say runways, I mean major runways. I want to be walking for amazing top designers. And that was a goal, and I spoke it out to the universe. What then happened was, this was summertime, about this time, 2017, 16, if I'm not mistaken, June 2016. Then came Fashion Week in September. I went to see some shows. I was hanging around in the London Fashion Week British Fashion Council lounge, and I saw a girl just walking past, and she looked like a lost puppy. And she saw me and said, hey, are you free at the moment? And I said, yes, I can be free. You know, can I help you? And she said, one of their models has just dropped out. Can I stand in? Can I, you know,
Oh, and this is hold me back. Sorry, can I stand in? You get your model pose. How do you want me to stand? I can see it, Howie. I can see it.
Absolutely. And next thing I knew, I was in hair and makeup, and it was a show for Bethany Williams. Last year, she actually won the Queen's Designer Award. Young, talented designer. I did the show. The next day, my social media went completely crazy. My image was on Vogue, and Vogue had about 3.5 million, 4 million followers at the time. I gained loads of followers. I had loads of messages. You look incredible. Who are you? And all of these. And I said, this is meant to happen, because only a few months ago, I said to myself, I want to be walking runway and doing all of these things. And a few months down the line, due to my hard work and putting myself out there, I was able to achieve that. And that was the beginning of my modeling career. I then got signed, did shows in Milan Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, and that's just progressed into what we have now. And like I said, I've always loved fashion. I've got loads of skill sets, from blogging, writing for fashion magazines, producing photo shoots. I have worked with very talented people, Mary Martin London being one
Oh,
of...
Mary Monson. I was going to say, if you hadn't given Mary a shout out by now, she'd be screaming, Howie, remember me!
I
Howie!
love Mary, you know, she is one of the most talented people out there at the moment. But cut long story short, worked with so many incredible people, and right now, I now have my own content creation agency, and what I do is I help emerging fashion designers and lifestyle brands create content. I've got a small production team who I work with, and that could be from social media marketing to creating advertorial content to helping them with, like, you know, social media influencers and all of those things. And it's pretty much taken all of the skill sets which I have gathered over the last couple of years in the industry to help young and emerging talents.
And that's brilliant. So what I love about that, because now that everybody's in lockdown, they've all got to try and find new ways of connecting. And now you're a social butterfly like me. We're out all the time. We go to this party and that party, and I say, oh, it's Howie again, hello. And then we go to about 5 in one night.
Absolutely.
Now we've had our wings clipped. It's been a bit different, hasn't it?
Absolutely different. And well, to be fair, I feel this time has given a lot of people like myself chance to really reflect, because I'm always up there, I'm always busy, always on my phone, on social media, on Instagram, you know, going to events and all of that. But this has actually allowed me time to appreciate how far I have come, identify gaps in my skill sets, and allowed me to obviously grow them, and allowed me ways to reinvent myself. I have been speaking to a lot of fashion designers and creatives, and it is about reinvention. What is the new normal? What's fashion going to be like now? What's entertainment going to be like now? And yeah, so that's what I have been doing.
No, and it begs the question, and I've been talking to the rich and famous and everyday heroes around the world, exactly the same thing. Some major artists who used to go into in front of stadiums, hundreds of thousands of people, and all of a sudden they're locked down in their room. And it's got one of two things, or one of three things actually happens. You're either going to be a hunk because you're working out so much, you become a chunk because you eat too many biscuits, or you become a drunk because you drink too much. It's got to be one of those three things in the current lockdown. And I think what's also happening, that nothing, joking aside, nothing unites people more than a common enemy, does it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so what I found is that some great communities have come up, and lots of people I've had the honor of sharing their living room and various other things. You work on that sort of basis where they come along and say, look, this is big challenges that people have. They have challenges about mental health. They have challenges about what the news is doing at the moment and how people are coping with that. But they've also got challenges to say, well, how can we keep ourselves busy? So what I've been doing is getting people from around the world to say, let's share some of that expertise. So we've had people who do yoga, people who do meditation, people who talk openly about mental health, people who learn new skills. So we've done chess, we've got chefs, we've got people in the fashion world, we talk about bloggers, that sort of stuff. What's really helpful is to turn around and say, okay, when people come on, can they share a few tips in terms of what they've done? Now, you touched on a couple of areas. You said you've learned a new way of engaging. You've learned a new way of applying social media. If we had the Howie's top tips, let's do social media first. Let's do Howie's top tips for social media. And I'm going to check this because I can check my 2 subscribers and we'll see if I put in touch my 2 subscribers, if I can make it to 3, that would be amazing. What are your top tips? Here we go.
So I would say consistency. Lockdown's giving us plenty of time. So number 1, find what you're really good at. If you are able to provide value, and I mean real value, because in lockdown, you've seen people teaching people how to cook, selling online courses on how to prepare meals. We've seen people start preparing courses on how to stay fit and healthy. You know, adding value. So find what you're really good at, provide some sort of value, and be consistent with that.
Okay, so being consistent, are you saying release content? Because this is what I've tried. It'd be really interesting. I'm going to put this into operation. Being consistent, do you release content every day, or how often do you release it?
Depending on what platform you have, and if your content really inspires and educates, it doesn't matter how much time. If you're entertaining, people would want to see you every time. If you're providing some sort of value, people can't get enough of what you're providing. So I would say, as much as your audience would love to see, at the end of the day, you don't want to burn yourself out. But I would say consistency, it could be once a day, it could be once a week. But once people begin to expect that you're bringing out whatever value, entertainment, skill, whatever it is on a particular day, they're going to be waiting for you come tomorrow or next week. They're going to know, right, it's 6 p.m. Howie hasn't released his fitness, routine. I was looking forward to that, So yeah, that is something to take away.
So a really good thing. So talk us through, because a lot of people will be looking at this, say, okay, I understand about YouTube, I've heard of Instagram, Twitter, and talk us through the different platforms and the best ways to utilize them.
Okay, where do we start from? Instagram is that which I absolutely love. Instagram, you've got Instagram Live, you've got Instagram Stories, and you've got your main feed. What I have seen an increase of since the lockdown is everyone going on Instagram Live. And that could be Instagram Live, them having a drink with and answering questions, just like you and I are doing, and people tune in. Some people, I'm sure, after this lockdown would land major television deals just because they've been able to show their communication skills and all that stuff from going online. So going on Instagram Live, chatting about anything you've got a genuine interest in, that's a great way for people to really get to tune into your personality and tune into what you've got to offer. Be consistent with your Instagram stories. One thing I never really used to do was showing people what I ate or, especially my home cooking. But lately, just because I've got so much time, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to bake a cake today. Why don't I do a few Instagram stories and go online and say, guys, I'm going to be baking cake. What are your recipes? I want to try new recipes. And people would go like, oh, do you know you could add XYZ in a vanilla cake and it's going to make it so much better. So that's a great way to genuinely and authentically engage with your audience on Instagram and be consistent. YouTube is another major platform. I don't really use a lot of YouTube myself. It's something I try to post on, but it is a great platform if you've got the time to edit and provide value, like I said earlier. And then again, you've got TikTok, which is pretty much not just for young people, not just for like the teenagers. I have seen some really useful content on TikTok. You see a lot of people, you know, doing these dances, singing, miming. It is absolutely entertaining. And there are billions of people who tune into TikTok to watch entertaining stuff. So find what you're really good at. If you want to do fashion, go on Instagram. If you want to do tech, go on YouTube and talk to people about tech products, fashion, or whatever that case might be. And if you're the type who loves dancing, entertaining people, get onto TikTok because there is a massive audience there waiting for you.
Oh, fantastic. No, well, I love all of this. What about Twitter? Do you use Twitter?
I don't really use a lot of Twitter. No, I only use Twitter. I'm more of a passive person when it comes to Twitter. When I'm watching television or when I'm watching the news, I would go on Twitter to see what people are saying. I don't really engage. I don't tweet myself, but it's more for me to like just watch and see what everyone else is thinking about and what everyone else is saying.
Brilliant. Well, I love all this. So this is going to be our experiment, Harry. When I get you back and get all your furniture in, you're going to we'll work out how we're going to get this fantastic content with this great interview with Howie. What do you reckon? And what tips would you say? Is it appealing to the right audience? Is it, when will you drip feed it? Which platforms would you put this interview out on?
Right, this interview would be amazing for YouTube because, I mean, what we're talking about right now is, I'm sure everyone globally can relate. So YouTube would allow us to reach a massive audience, and Instagram as well, Instagram TV. Instagram TV would allow lengthy videos up to an hour, and you could even splice the video in 2 parts if it's over an hour. And the audience we might be able to reach with such content would be absolutely unbelievable.
So do you think this is compelling content?
Absolutely. It's
content to die for. People love this content. You're going to be lapping it up. They're going to be salivating in anticipation that Howie and Andrew are going to be on the air. HA, ha ha. We could have a little thing to make that make sense.
Absolutely, Andrew. I do agree with you.
It's got to be brilliant. Well, I will look. This will be our social experiment, which will be fantastic. Now, tell me, Howie, in all seriousness, it is an extraordinary time at the moment, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And in terms of what I like to do is get people's different views on the world and to see other people's perspective, to see how we might be able to do things differently, that we could all learn. I always say, Howie, question everything. Because what you get in the media is one person's perspective of events. Yeah? And the way that I like to consume the news, because we're inundated, we're drowning in a sea of information, aren't we? And you turn around and 99.9% of it is false. So what happens is most people get their prejudices because they read or they watch a particular channel. And what happens is if you watch that channel all the time, it's going to confirm your view of the world. And there's enough information that you can confirm any view out there. If you read the same newspaper every day, you surround yourself with the same people every day, you look at the same news channels every day, you're confirming your own beliefs, aren't you? And what I think should happen is you should look at all the different areas, dig a bit deeper into it, and try and look behind the story. So you don't have, when somebody's interviewed, they don't suddenly say, well, I'm sorry, I've run out of time now. We can't hear you give a full answer. What I want to do is try and dig down where people can get personal experiences and recognize that it's one person's view of the world, but let's have a look at that and then question that. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I do agree with you. I really do.
So from that point of view, what is your view of the current situation in the world?
Wow. There's so much happening since the beginning of the year. Obviously, with the pandemic, which we're facing at the moment, with loads of information floating about as to the cause of the virus, how it spread, safety measures. And at a time, everyone was confused because there was so much information out there as to how you could contact the virus or how you could spread the virus. And the media was, in terms of figures, absolutely chaotic, right? And then most recently, the murder of George Floyd in the United States, that's pretty much sparked a whole new revolution of the fight against racism. Absolutely incredible. However, there's been different, just like you mentioned, different news sources. You've got, number one, you've got social media. Then if you're the type who would normally go on Daily Mail to read news or watch Sky News and CNN and all this, consuming all this different information, it could be quite chaotic for the brain to process. I know being online on Instagram, there are people who said, right, I have got a resource to vital information on tackling racism, and then you would get some other person coming up with, no, this isn't right. It's got to be this way. It's got to be that way. So it begs the question, what do we tune into? What do we believe? What are the best resources to go on to educate ourselves? And it's quite a tricky one in terms of getting education regarding all that's going on.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely right. And what I always say to everybody is, look, try and put yourself in the other person's shoes. We don't know everything. It really is question everything. Let's have a look. Let's drill down where you have informed debate, because informed debate is what leads to solutions. And the world has got so many issues that need to be addressed. If you just sweep it under the carpet and pretend it's not an issue, it becomes a bigger problem, doesn't it? And I think having everybody cooped up for so long, it's like having a firework. You just light the blue touch paper, it's going to explode, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you need to have a look at those sort of things. And I would always urge people to get evidence-based, reliable sources. So one of the things that I've set up is ENN, which is the EBORN News Network, where I'm talking to people on the ground. We're questioning, we're not just regurgitating what they said, but we're questioning it. We're looking at the evidence, looking at other bits and pieces, getting other people involved. So we've got a platform for people to say, okay, here are our views, but be ready to have those views challenged as we dig down for the facts. Because then the audience at home can decide, well, okay, yeah, I've got my source from here, 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 and here. I've now got a proper picture, then I can understand better what's going on. Is that a fair summary?
Absolutely. I do agree with you on that one.
Okay. And I would really urge that. So you're right, as the world is looking at all these horrible headlines, and they are horrible, and people have different views on that sort of stuff. What I would like to try and find is, where do we get a better understanding? Where do we move on from this terrible place that we're in at the moment and find a solution? Do you have views on that?
I wish I had answers on that one, but my take on this is pretty much, we've talked about systemic racism, where the information that's been readily been made available might not be able to dig deep down into history, for instance. There's been news about watershed history, getting taught, incorrect watershed history in school and all of those. So for instance, I did my primary school in Nigeria, and the history we learned in Nigeria regarding, colonization, the British Empire and slave trade, information like that, for instance, is completely different to what I then got taught when I came here, for instance. And it's pretty much digging deep down into history and beginning to question, like you said, wait, that happened, how did that happen, who is this person? Lately, even I wasn't aware about the statue that got brought down from Bristol, this guy. And it just begs the question, because if you go into town, for instance, historic places, you could see all these gigantic statues of people who supposedly should not be celebrated due to, you know, their mark in history being celebrated. And it's pretty much beginning to question, this person is famous or is historical for doing XYZ, you know. So what have they done? You know, begging those questions, what have they really done? Or how do they deserve to hold such significance in whatever city they've got their statues in? So for instance, that's just an example, but it's really beginning to question and understand, why is this so and why isn't that so? Like you said earlier, but it's all about questioning.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And my own view is that jaw, in other words, talk rather than war. So rather than fighting and doing this sort of stuff, which doesn't help anybody, I don't think. If we can talk about things in a sensible way, as you and I are talking about things now, and say, look, we're questioning everything. We don't know everything. So what we need to do is get the evidence. Let's get the facts, and then people hopefully will come round to consensus. Wouldn't that be a best way to do it?
Absolutely. It's about having conversations, because obviously there's been protests, and unfortunately we've had the not so negative side of this protest, because when it comes to like any protests, there is always the protesters who are there for the right cause. You've got the rioters who are just full of anger and, you know, who are ready to, you know, tear apart anything that comes in their way. And then you've got the looters who are just there for the free ride, pretty much, got no intentions of the purpose. And it's pretty much identifying, okay, where do you belong, and how could we sit down to have conversations as to how we could move forward. What can we put in place to, you know, not rewrite history, because, you know, history is in the past and really can't rewrite history, but it's what can we do right now to make sure that the future is better, to make sure that the future generation, you know, our children and grandchildren, to live a much more better life than, you know, happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I always say that we always say that history repeats itself,
Yeah.
but we don't learn the lessons of history. And so what I would always urge people to do is have a look back. See, I mean, even with these pandemics that we have now, we had another one in 1918, and before that we had the bubonic plague, and before that we had history is peppered with pandemics. So we had a look, and I've been speaking to lots of historians, and they would sort of turn around and say, well, the 1918, what was called the Spanish flu, firstly, it wasn't Spanish flu, so there was a bit of funny things going on there about how you label it. But secondly, how did it finish? And they say that actually more people died in the second wave of the pandemic, and eventually the virus just died out. They didn't have a vaccine or anything, it just died out and disappeared. If you go back to the bubonic plague, what happened is there was a lot of the first ever fake news, if you like, because people first of all heard, well, hang on, it's caused by cats. And because it's caused by cats, they killed the cats. Now, that was a fake news, which actually made the situation worse because the cats were killing the rats. And actually, the bubonic plague came from the rats.
Yeah.
So actually, it got far worse because of fake news. So
Yeah.
if you learn those lessons, that what happened, I mean, a few weeks ago, everybody was a big expert on the Constitution. We all talked about Brexit. Everybody knew how to be a Brexiteer, how to do this, what was constitutional, what was proroguing, what was not. Everybody was an expert. They're all on social media talking about that. Yeah. Those same people have now become virologists, haven't they? They all know the solution. They're all talking about, here's your virus, this is what you can do. I mean, they don't know. And the reality is, these people just want to be. There's a rush now in news. It's not about the truth. It's about being first. And because it's about being first, it means that we're not checking things. We're just regurgitating. We're running with our phone. We're recording our version of events quickly and saying that's what's happening. It's not. That's a little slice of what's happening at that moment from your perspective.
Absolutely.
I think we need to make sure we check things. as I say, shine more light and less heat.
Shine more light and less heat. I love that.
That's good. We'll have a t-shirt and it can be designed and you'll wear it down a runway. I love it. More light, less heat. We're going to do that. It's going to be good. Howie, we're going to bring you back. I would love to chat a lot longer. So will you come back and we'll have a little chat and we'll see how your new home evolves as you get furniture in there.
Absolutely agree.
We'll try our experiment where we're going to go viral.
Yes,
This video is going to be quicker. The biggest virus ever will be our viral video. Okay, that's going to be the one.
I am absolutely up for a challenge.
Up for a challenge. We'll make this go viral on every platform. And I'll tell you what, it'll be an interesting experiment because we'll see and try even the ones you've mentioned. So we'll do Instagram, we'll do YouTube, we'll do Daily Motion, we'll try a bit of Twitter, we'll try all of them. And we'll see how far we can make this go. Is that good?
I'm up for a challenge, Andrew. Absolutely.
Give us a high five.
High five. High five. Right there.
Howie, it's a real joy. Really, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Andrew, have a wonderful evening.
I certainly will. And you. Take care, Howie. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Howie. If you have any views on any of the issues raised, please put them in the comments below. Or if you'd like to be on the show, write to me at lol, that's LOL, at octopustv.com. That's LOL at octopustv.com. And it's going to be interesting, this social media experiment. Let's see how far we can go with this message. I like the fact that it's less heat and more light. See you next time. Bye-bye.